Thank you everybody for coming out for today's mini masterclass on stress and recovery. We'll be going through a lot of things today, as much as we can in a short period of time. Essentially, I want to ask one question before we start to help us kind of start exploring stress. So my first question is, where does stress live? Very interesting question, right? And why is it hard to address stress? The reason why is because stress lives on the other side of the limitation of words. It lives in the subconscious, it lives beyond the restraints of time, and it lives where there are no shortcuts. So whenever we're dealing with stress, we must address these elements. And so our conversation today is going to be based on doing that directly. There will be no shortcuts. We will be talking about the real thing. Because of this, the style of presentation, we're going to be going through a lot of depth, right? So we're going to be doing that very quickly. Because of this, the processing of it will be processed more by your subconscious than your conscious. That just means you get to relax and really enjoy. The more you open your mind, the more you'll take in, the more you'll learn. Perfect. All right. So let's take a deep breath in together and out. All right, welcome everybody. I'll be your guide today. First thing we're going to talk about is what would happen if I had a screw, a nail, and a steel beam, and I pulled back and I hit that as hard as I could. I'd have the feedback from that experience that I'm misusing my tools. Something's off, something's not right from that experience. So this is our first contact with stress. When we think of stress, we need to think about we are misusing the tools of health. Therefore, it's giving us the feedback from that experience that something is off. What are the tools of stress? We have mental, physical, and emotional health. So essentially, if we are misusing one of those three, we get the feedback that we are outside of the environment that supports our health. And therefore, stress is actually saying, get back in that environment, and we may or may not be listening to what it's trying to tell us. Right? So this is our definition of stress. Now, if that is stress, then what is the opposite environment? That'd be pretty good to know. We have two halves. We're not going to say that's non-stress. We're going to say that is growth. Perfect. So what happens in the environment of growth when we're talking about mental, physical, and emotional health? We'd say here that, in a poetic way, when the emotional health is good, the heart opens. When mental health is good, the mind outgrows itself. When physical health is good, the body replenishes itself. And that's what happens in an environment of growth. Right? We have our definition of stress, our definition of growth. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about the three different languages that stress speaks in. And for that, I'll have my model. Can you come here for a second? So you can stand here. This circle represents our environment of growth. Good things are happening, right? We'll take a look at the chain here, so you can hold on to that. This is our first speech of stress. This is the physical, you see, yeah. This is the physical expression of what stress is. It's heavy, you feel it, you know it's there, you might not be able to do anything about it. Sometimes we think we're just lazy or it doesn't matter or who cares or that's just life. But that's not true. By the time we could feel stress this strongly, this means that we have burnt out all our resources and no longer have what it takes to overcome this stressor. Meaning this is the best time, or not the best time, but we should ask for help before this happens. And the only way outside of this style of stress is to ask for support. Right? This is our physical stressor. Heavy, very strong. It's continuously pulling the person outside of their environment. So this arm, yeah, perfect. One leg in. Perfect. So right here, it is pulling us outside that environment of health. We are using so much of our health resources to resist this. It's a continuous pull and is always continuously, slowly draining our energy, right? So that is physical stress. Thank you. We'll go the other side. All right. Now we move on to the second language. This is the language of mental health, right? When it is stress, the tension's a little bit different. It doesn't pull you out, but it's constantly having this large pull of energy onto the other side, so we're draining our energy. It seems like it resolves itself because it stops at some point, but did we do anything to resolve it? We did not. So this means it is still there, although our mind is a lot more flexible. When we have those outbursts of what we call emotional expression, which is really frustration of the mind, then we tend to, my partner did it to me, or that dog, or that person on the street. But this has a lot to do with how we're doing with our mental health. So this quality is a lot more elastic, comes and goes, but is a big spike of energy, then quiets down, then spike of energy. Perfect. Oh, you guys won't be able to see it. So here, you can turn this way a little bit. Yeah. This is emotional stress. It is a lot more subtle, harder to see, harder to notice, but still has a very strong impact. It slowly pulls these shoulders up towards the ears. We know that position, right? This is our stress here. You can relax there. The difference is it is not as sharp as mental stress. It's not as strong as physical stress, but it has the ability to take away the color from life, the joys, the fun, the jokingness, the childhood likeness of us. And because of that, we tend to not be able to place it, right? So when somebody comes into my office, they have the heavy chain pulling one way, they have the other chain, elastic band pulling the other, and shoulders up here, and they say, "Hey, Noel, I think I'm feeling stressed." And I say, that makes sense to me. So my job is to make sure I understand how these stressors are affecting this person's way of life, and then I slowly bring them back into the environment of health, where they can replenish, restore, breathe in and breathe out, and feel a lot more supported by their environment, right? So that is my job. I'm going to break down what that kind of looks like. So first we take a look at the emotional stress. The most silent of all of them, it is essentially telling us that there is a disconnection, emotional disconnection from experience, right? So that break makes it challenging for the mind to solve with information it doesn't have. So then it goes to mental health. Well, I'm trying to solve this problem, but I'm not getting the information I need. That is frustrating. So we get that mental stress. Then physically, we're doing actions to try to prove the mind right, that we're doing the right thing, but we don't get the result we're looking for. So that means we're not doing it right. And we generally stop there and just pick up something else. But it's my job to restore that cycle so that each level of health supports the growth of the human being, the growth of the person towards their greatest health potential. Right? Thank you very much. So so that is the different three languages of stress. Now let's take a look at restoration, that ability to replenish oneself. Now this is different than rest. We often think, well, if I fall asleep and wake up, I've rested, I've done what I need to do, and this is perfect. However, that is the body sleeping, and not what it feels like to be in an environment that's truly supportive of yourself. Right? When we're in that environment, we feel calm, relaxed, we can process emotions, we can talk about how we're thinking, we can evolve our way of thought, we can do new actions that we actually love doing but haven't made time to do because we're stressed out. All these things start to resolve themselves, and the person starts to get this character of themselves. Right? They start to be more themselves. They laugh, they joke, they talk about things that are important to them. They, will say actually how they feel about something. So this is the most replenishing environment because now the things outside of you start to reflect who you are. And that is a very replenishing state. Now that being said, after we bring these different pieces of experience that makes them more themselves, not only do we affect the smaller environment, the personal environment of health, but this starts to spread out into the lifestyle that supports the human being living it. We spend all of our time in our lifestyle, more or less, but we don't spend time thinking about the impact of the experiences we have in our lifestyle. And this does have a very deep effect on our health overall. So I'd say essentially, when we're taking a look at health from this perspective, we add in a few new elements to health. We're talking about depth, because stress tends to dissipate as we grow deeper and closer towards the things that are important to us. Less clutter in here, less clutter with the body, more replenishing is happening, right? So here we'd ask the question, how is this experience nutritious to the individual? How's it helping you grow towards you? And if it is not, we generally have the expression of stress telling us, hey, we're definitely outside that boundary. We have the expression of projection, it's you, not me. We have the expression of disconnection, right? I don't want to hang out with my friends. I don't want to play. This is not that important, even though I love gardening. I never garden. That's a problem, right? And we have lack of creativity as well. So these are different expressions of the lack of stress. In general, if I was going to coin it into one expression, stress always leads to a disconnection from something that is in itself nutritious for the individual, right? And so when we're taking a look at the experience, we're pretty much solving for what's missing, right? What's that one thing that would help you get there? And it's not just in a single form of an action. An action is empty if it's not supported by a mindset. The mindset means very little if the heart or mind or heart or emotions are not going along for that ride. And so it becomes super important to make sure all these three things are connected when we're looking for that replenishing environment. Whew. All right. So I want to talk to you just quickly about a program that we'll be offering. It's called the Whole Life Health Program. This program takes a look at stress directly and its impact on our health. Therefore, working on the restoring environment, and not all actions are restorative and replenishing. Although we might market them that way, it has a whole different end result. And that is always the growth of the person, right? That being said, we have a naturopath, a chiropractor, and also a osteopath looking at health from different perspectives. So the chiropractor is looking at it from aging and your body structure. Naturopath is looking at not just nutrition of the body, but nutrition of the mind as we take on life challenges. Our osteopath is taking a look at the expression of stress and calm on the body internally and externally. So this makes a very powerful program. And my job is just to coordinate those things and make sure that we have a style of health that adapts to life and living. Right, so that is that program shortly. Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of things. My name is Noel Miller. I'm the creator of Restoring Therapy. I'm the creator of the Whole Life Health Program. And my expertise would be in experiencing health or a healthy experience. Thank you very much. Now we can ask questions. Hopefully that made some sense to everybody. Great. All right, so we can ask some lifestyle questions about stress. Anybody? No?
I have a question.
Yes.
Where do you find stress falls?
Yeah, so very interesting. Stress expresses itself differently. So I'm looking at mental, physical, and emotion. So I might be talking to the person, and through a conversation, I see that they're always trying to take ownership of what's happening. Oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. This lets me know that they're missing a connection of being soft with themselves, right? So if we're going to work out, they're going to push it really hard and disconnect from their body completely. This becomes a point of emotional tension. Mentally, it might be they're always solving something by, being the first person to do it, right? Always go, 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 don't stop, keep going. This means when we do exercise again, they're going to have the energy of, I'm only as good as my performance, right? This is not great. The people that have the biggest challenge is two. One, the person that's always used to giving care and therefore never receiving it. They don't know what that experience is like. And then equally, the person who's always receiving care, essentially not being able to appreciate what care costs, and they're not having the experience of care, because that's a missing portion of balancing that situation. That being said, the average places, there's tension in the shoulders. This is generally emotional, right? We have tension in the hips. I see a lot of tension in the calves for ladies. Right? I'm not going to talk about that, but these are different places. Generally, guys, lower back for tension, stiffness, upper shoulders, neck. So that is kind of what we see there. If we're talking about relationships and communication, we're generally talking about two people living together and talking, but never figuring out the language that they speak. Right? This person is coming from a completely different mindset, and we never stop and bridge those gaps. We just say, you should understand me, I should understand you. You get upset at me enough, I start to figure it out. I get upset at you enough, you start to figure it out. But we don't have the combination of communication on a level of growth. If we are just trying to outgrow this problem because we know we're supposed to work together, then it's pretty easy. Right? We're looking for the solution. We're not saying you are the problem and you are the problem. And this also has a way of seeping into how we express ourselves in life. So those are some kind of things there. I'm going to take a quick note on mental health. So the way that I see mental health is essentially When we're not getting the experience to support our solution, we get stressed out and we have these different expressions, anxiety, but that's only because we're stuck in not moving forward. So for example, when we were younger, it was super stressful to tie your shoelaces because we didn't know how to do it, right? And if mom was there or dad was there to kind of help you, sure, or auntie was there to help you tie it, and you tie you the little bunny thing, you're like, oh, okay, you know, I get it. You go to your friend's house, you're okay, you can tie it, no stress. You've overcome the challenge, therefore, the brain doesn't have to worry about it. However, let's say I didn't have that person to teach me. And now I'm a teenager and I'm going to my friend's house to party. And everyone's at the front door and we're getting ready to leave, and I forgot my shoes with the Velcro. Oh boy, is that a stressful situation. I'm going to look bad. I'm going to say that instead of me like, oh, I don't really know how to tie it, that means I'm a failure. I can't do it. Everybody else can do it. All this pressure builds up. It's not particularly there. I mean, people that love and care you are going to be like, oh, okay, let me help you do that. Or don't worry, I'll show you. Right? They're actually there to help because they're your friends. But this pressure builds up and this seeps into a missing experience. So I don't want to be vulnerable. Can I grow without being vulnerable? Absolutely not. That's not going to happen. You can't explore yourself if you are not vulnerable. So how are you going to grow? You're going to just do physical actions all the time? That's great, but it's not going to have the nutrition we're looking for because it's not going to equal growth. It's going to turn into a compensation. Something other than the original thing that we're looking for, which is that environment of support. So there's lots of different pieces that mix and mingle, but ultimately we're looking for, or we will say, that when a person grows, they must be healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally. Right? So we're always looking for the growth and the potential of the person. Any other questions? Yeah.
When you feel like your stress is coming on,
Mhm.
is it better to work out and get it out? Or is it better just take a minute and say, hey, I need to address this right now?
Okay, good question. So when we're feeling stressed, is it better to come to the gym, work out, hit the weights, and express it, and then at least it gives you that downtime? The answer is yes and no. One, it's good if I'm feeling really overwhelmed and I'm like, oh, I just need to get this out. It might give me a release to go back and check out why I was stressed. You see, the exercise itself is a release, but it's not a solution. And if we stop at the release, that stress will keep building because what is our mind trying to tell us? We are misusing one of the elements of health. And we need to support it so that we're back in here. And therefore, the stress doesn't build up. Right? So this is what we're looking at. And it might be hard for you to see, so it's good to have somebody to navigate that with. You might know exactly where it is. And, you know, I'm stressed over here because of this. Great. Let's see if that's true. That means if I can find an experience that balances that out and we overcome it, you're right. If we do not, there's something else. Something that was more hidden. It's easier for me to express that I'm angry than I am hurt and upset. Right? So certain emotions will replace others because it's safer, it's more relaxed, it's more okay. One tip on relationships, because I think it's a very important point, and I at least have to make it. All right. So in relationships, we often can find somebody where we feel like supported and cared for. And so we express all the things we didn't have time to express in the environments that weren't supportive and weren't loving. Right? So we can project this hurt from other people onto the loving person because they're willing to listen and they're willing to love you through that challenge. And so I want to just put that note to make sure that we are giving the proper appreciation for that person. If they're that space that we could come to and open up and release, this is a powerful thing. That's a healing thing. So we need to take a little bit extra time to put that care into their meal or their thing that they find interesting or fun and to see the good that is happening there. And when somebody becomes stressed, the first thing that you stop doing is taking in your surroundings and your environment. Right? I come down to the basic and I'm like, these things I need or else. Right? And I have very little time to care for other people. Or if I think that I'm like super mom, I'll do absolutely everything, never take time for myself. And even when everybody's trying to give it to me, I'll give it back. Right? Because that is kind of a vulnerable and uncomfortable and not familiar space to go into. So just because we're adults or we are our age doesn't mean that we have the, what's called, growth to support the challenges that we're facing now. And we're not having that same kind of mentorship that we had before, right? Or we never had that mentorship. And that's very important for us to take a deep breath, take a look at our surroundings, and then start to pursue the things that are more important for us to pursue. And because we have such busy lifestyles, it's so easy to get caught up in the superficial and light and not go down to the emotional and deep and the things that you actually want to enjoy, the things that are truly passionate for you, the things that you want to share. If you have a great love for poetry, but never share that poetry, what a shame. You never get to see the impact of those strong words shared with another, and therefore their reception of it. And that is very powerful. Your environment can reflect you. You can feel empowered. The person can give you the right appreciation for your art, your work, the thing that you created, put time into. So that is very important. Creativity is also very important because what does it show? It shows the end result of all your experience put into a single thing. And that beauty that is inspired by that mentorship that can inspire is exactly that nutrition of that experience. That's super important for our overall health. So when we take a look at stress, we must also take a look at the whole person and how they are functioning in their lifestyle. And is their lifestyle actually supportive of them? Yeah, all right. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So it's a program that we're going to be offering called the Whole Life Health Program. So if you've already submitted your emails through the app, then we can reach out to you and we can give you a little bit more information about that, how it works, how it functions. It does work with some benefits depending on where you're working. Yeah.
Is it possible to have a group class activity, or is it like one-on-one session?
Very good question. So essentially, I would start off with one-on-one, right? Because we have to see how you feel, how your emotions going, how is your mind trying to solve for the stressors in your day, right? It has to be very personal, very unique. In fact, it applies to you because of your way of thinking. And I have to understand that to be able to break those things down. Outside of that, when you get a little bit more comfortable with expression, if you're like, hey, you know what? I want to do this thing with my partner, or I'd like to build a bond with my daughter and really get this thing working so I can build not only my health, but the health of somebody I care about, then this is something that's also possible. But I'd always start off kind of one-on-one to get a good feel of what that's like.
It's like the therapy session.
So very good question. So because of the three different realms of health, right? We talked about emotional, mental, and physical. It has all three components. Right now we're talking about the mental and emotional, but we can ask deeper questions about exercise. So there is an exercise that empowers the person, an exercise that slows down the person, an exercise that increases flexibility or openness in life. So there's different ways that we can look at exercise that not only attaches to mental, but also physical and emotional. I could just put you through a hard workout, but this is about the whole person. So I want it to be more full, more whole, more complete. And I've spent over 15 years putting it together. So I'd like to really embrace the power of what it has. And that is to correct a missing experience. And we could say here, if you've never had the experience of being supported, you can't find it. It's very hard to find, right? It's very vulnerable to find at some points. But if somebody can put you in an environment where that is okay, where you can gain strength there, you can get some good exploration, then it can become a part of who you are. So this model, as simple as it seems, is something that is pretty deep. It has philosophy, psychology, and so many other things that help bring it together because these are all powerful pieces of human expression. A session with me is an hour, and we might be doing exercise, we might be doing talking, we might be doing all three at the same time, right? It doesn't have to be separate, but we can be doing a thing, and that might be where you're comfortable to talk about something. I say, okay, so this means this, so we have to change your lifestyle to support your need for downtime, which you don't take because you feel you have to give to everybody. Okay, so your homework is not only to do this exercise, but your homework is also to communicate that you need downtime to your loved ones. Maybe they don't even know. Mom's just a superhero. I don't know what mom does, but she's always doing it good, right? Or I can't appreciate what mom does, so I always think she does it bad, right? But that's going to affect you, so we want to work through those patterns, those thoughts, and things like that. Okay, so for the benefits portion, essentially, I don't know, for time, you have to let me know. For the benefits portion, if you have chiropractor or naturopath, those two work. The other elements are not completely covered. Depending on if you have a wellness spending plan or depending how versatile your coverage is, then we can see what we can do with that. All right, thank you everybody for coming. I really appreciate you guys listening to me talk. And hopefully it made some sense to you. Yeah, and if you're going to stay longer, we're going to move into the retreat. and take a look at more physical expressions of stress and talk about that. Thank you. Oh, and we have smoothies as well. So grab your smoothie before you go. Enjoy that from the hub.